Again, welcome to the Elevate session. So as Lori said, I'm Alan Morris. I'm here with Kim Valdez. Hopefully we're going to guide you today through the discussion around global territory rights. So the Elevate events are designed to educate senior leadership on changes in the industry with your partners, clients, and the manufacturers. We realize, like most, that Autodesk is a big expenditure for most organizations, and we want to share best practices on how organizations leverage basically the changes and hopefully get the biggest bang for your buck. So these topics are typically for any size organization that's using Autodesk technology. Global rights comes up probably in almost every day with every client. Autodesk has moved to a named user model, which is in some cases made it more complicated for organizations. But with these changes, we see a lot of opportunity for both local and global organizations to potentially change their strategy. So what we found is many are not aware of a lot of what these changes are and how what this can do to actually benefit your organization on usage, or in some cases, we see clients getting in bad situations and getting compliance issues, which could cost them money. So Kim, you want to go to the agenda slide? So before we begin this conversation, I want to make this really clear. We are not legal counsel. Part of our job is making sure education on changes. Anything we talk about here, I'm always going to recommend the same things, which is you have unique scenarios. You should be working with your legal departments, people that look at the Autodesk contracts, and obviously work with partners like ourselves to try and give you consulting advice to make sure you're making good decisions. So over the last year, like I said, Autodesk has made a lot of changes. Because of these changes, it's opened the door for organizations to one, rethink how they're using the technology, two, make better financial decisions, and lastly, basically optimize your investment to make sure you're getting the most out of it. So today there's really three things we want to cover. First one is what you are entitled to as an Autodesk client. Number two is we want to make sure you guys understand the options available to you, because with these changes, there's a lot of different things you can do to get a lot out of your technology. And the last thing we want to do is basically give you access to the powerful data that's available inside your applications to make better decisions. So Kim, you want to go ahead? So the first question is I always ask is, so why should you care? And when I kind of think about this, the world's becoming smaller. Obviously, COVID's obviously made it feel even smaller in some cases, but with the connectivity, with organizations, with mergers and acquisitions, with organizations look to expand globally or working on projects, and in some cases, actually bringing consultant and partners involved, it's changing the way we're interacting with a lot of organizations. So in a lot of cases, Autodesk is making it easier, but at the same time, they're also trying to give you guys some security light to distribute your licenses how you see fit moving forward. So we're seeing many organizations looking to expand, or maybe even sell their businesses. Some are looking to get acquired, some are looking to merge. Like I said, in a lot of cases, we're actually seeing organizations even decide to take the step of, like I said, expanding overseas or other places. And in the past, it's always been really difficult to work inside the Autodesk umbrella to do that. So with that being said, Kim, you want to skip ahead? And what we're going to talk about is I'm going to talk about three major changes going on, but I'm going to hand it over to Kim to go in more detail. But basically, we're going to talk about the global use of technology, so meaning what does it mean, your ability to transfer licenses more effectively, and the last part is basically license distribution outside of your four walls. So let's start with what's happening from a global standpoint. So Autodesk's goal when they went to this named user model was to simplify the process to allow you to use licenses anywhere across the world that you want to be using them, which basically means that I have now the ability to centralize my purchasing, where before, if I bought in the US, I had to use in the US. If I bought in Canada, I had to buy in Canada. If I bought in England, I had to buy in England. Now they're saying, we don't care where you buy the technology as long as it's in an approved country. And what you're going to see is when we talk about this, we'll be providing a list of the approved countries and non-approved countries and what that really means. But the goal of this is Autodesk wanted to make it easier for you guys to centralize your purchases, use your purchasing power more effectively of technology, and also distribute those licenses based on how your business ebb and flows. So what you see is on this list is some examples of approved countries and not approved countries. And what that basically means, I'm going to keep this really simple, is if I'm in an approved country, if I buy a license in, let's say, the US, I can use it anywhere in the world I want to use it. If I buy a license in an unapproved country, I can only use it in that country that I bought it from. So you see some listed down there. But at the end of the day, the good part is like I said, most people having this call are from the US or Canada, which means now you're going to get flexibility of using it anywhere in the world you want to be using it. So Kim, you want to skip ahead? So that's the first change. The second change revolves around the transfer of licenses. And basically in most cases, when you look at the past, Autodesk made it really difficult to transfer licenses between subsidiaries and corporate organizations, sending licenses outside of the country of origin, or even working with subcontractors. So in a lot of cases, what they did was they simplified the process and did three major things. One, if I'm doing mergers, acquisitions, or divestitures of businesses, I can move those licenses easily. Second, is I've given you the ability to consolidate licenses to a parent company, no matter if it belongs to a subsidiary or a third-party company. The last part is they've also given you access to transfer of licenses to affiliated entities. So what all this means is basically, if I'm in an approved country, I can basically put licenses anywhere I want to put them. If I'm in a non-approved country, I have to keep in a non-approved country from a merger or from transfer of licenses. And the last one, I can move approved licenses to a non-approved country with no issues whatsoever. So that's transfer of licenses. And like I said, Kim's going to take us through some of this in a second. So let's skip ahead to the distribution of licenses. And this is probably one of the most exciting and probably scariest things out there. So one of the things that Autodesk is trying to do is give you the ability to not just send your licenses globally to different subsidiaries or to your organizations. They also want to make sure they give you the ability to access those, to give those licenses to people that you're working with. So people that don't necessarily belong to your organization. So we've seen a growing trend in clients doing a couple things. One, they want to consolidate the technology organization you're using. You might be working with somebody that doesn't have the technology or has an older version. Number two, they want to give you better control of the data and the information of what's happening. But we're also seeing in some cases, people are using this as an opportunity to charge back software to these other organizations as they're starting to work with your technology. So at the end of the day, what you take away from this is basically the concept of, I can now do anything I want with my licenses, as long as it's in an approved country, going to an approved country, or from an approved country to an unapproved country. If I'm working in an unapproved country, everything stays there. But so when we talk about use of technology, transferring licenses, or sharing your technology, Autodesk has made it super simple. So when we start talking about the pros and cons of this, can you want to skip ahead? So there's obviously a lot of positives. So one, like we talked about, you can control your data, you can control the applications. Number two, we've talked about you can basically control the type of application somebody's using. So if everybody's using Autodesk Construction Cloud or the latest version of Revit or even an older version, you guys can start doing that. From your guys' standpoint, it's simplification of pricing. So what we found was a lot of people working with multiple vendors across the world, and it made your life difficult. Two, it also made it harder because some cases you were buying more license you might have needed because you had to buy it for those areas. And lastly, if you are buying a lot of technology, you can improve that purchasing power. Now, on the same side, there are some cons to this. When an organization opens up how you use the technology, there's always concerns. First one is, how do I secure what somebody has when they have it? Can I make sure that I'm actually optimizing the technology because I can still buy more than what I need? But the biggest thing is around license compliance. And I'll give you a simple example that happened to somebody probably about 2 months ago. And basically what happened was the client basically gave technology to one of their consultants. And they said, we want you to use the software on this application, not knowing what their PCs had on them beforehand. And what they found out is the organization had illegal software along with the stuff they were giving them. And in the license agreement that you sign with Autodesk, it says you're responsible for anything on anybody's PC that you get access to that software. So in this particular case, it wasn't the consultant that got in trouble. It was the person that gave them access to the licenses. Now, in some cases, it's a minor issue. In some cases, it could cost you money. So that's why we're saying it's important to understand your rights of what you're doing and what you're using. So to go in a little more detail, I'm going to pass it over to Kim to talk a little more detail about just the things organizations are doing and how they're actually taking advantage of this technology to be more effective. Kim?
Thanks, Alan. So I'm going to talk about two particular solutions that are helping our customers with optimize their licenses and minimize cost over the overall life cycle. This is especially important now that customers can take advantage of global licensing and are starting to look at centralized purchasing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to provide a bit of a comparison of Autodesk Standard Plan versus Premium. But I'll mostly be covering the benefits of Premium and how IMAGINiT is helping our clients optimize their existing Autodesk software investment, make smarter decisions with user details, and minimize costs, like I said, over the life cycle of their Autodesk contract. So Standard Plan is what you get when you purchase a new subscription. And Premium is an uplift that provides additional security, as well as enhanced usage reporting and added support benefits. So both with your Autodesk Standard Plan and Premium Plan offer a two-step verification, which is an added extra layer of security to your Autodesk account by requiring generated security code at login. Active Directory is only available with Premium Plan, and Directory Sync uses the company's network credentials to sign in and have users automatically added to your user list with access to all applications upon their first sign-on. So single sign-on saves time, it makes the overall administration easier, and users do not have to remember new login credentials. The usage reporting is included in both the Standard Plan and Premium Plan, but I'll go into that in a bit more detail on my next slide. And then lastly, with Premium, you get access to 24/7 support for your single sign-on administrator. Now, what you're seeing here is you're seeing kind of a snapshot is that, let's say you had Premium, you logged into your Autodesk account, you'll see some type of additional reporting functionality. With the Standard Plan, the reporting is limited, and the user ID is masked by a 16-digit code. So what that means is if you want to see what Hilda Gomez is using and when she's using it, there will be challenges because you will not be able to see Hilda's information. You'll see, well, her name. You'll see a user that has a 16-digit code, but there's no name assigned to it. So the reporting is limited to product usage details such as product name, version, and date. However, with the Autodesk Premium Plan, you get much more granularity. You can see exactly who is using what, for how long, and how much it's costing your business. Also, understanding your design team's usage habits makes it a lot easier to budget and predict future needs. And to simplify the overall process for accessing and analyzing usage reporting, IMAGINiT has developed a business intelligence report to allow greater flexibility into the data that's most important to you, whether that be usage patterns for your entire organization, or whether you want to look at a specific team, you want to look at a country, a business unit, or an individual user over longer periods of time. As I talk through some examples of how customers have benefit for Premium, I'll also share some sample snapshots of the type of BI reporting you can receive complimentary from IMAGINiT. Now, when you purchase Premium, you will be assigned a dedicated customer advocate from IMAGINiT, and as a secondary admin, your customer advocate can assist with setting up your teams, your users, and groups, assist with managing your Autodesk account, and doing some basic level troubleshooting. In addition, your customer advocate will be the one that will coordinate the SSO integration and testing, will create your Premium team, and will also onboard any administrators and establish a cadence for reviewing usage data trends. Now, what you are seeing here is a sample BI report showing aggregate usage by product over the last 90 days. For the entire organization. You also see user details by product offering, and what a product offering would be is like a collection, which is a portfolio of products. And what you're seeing is the individual products being used in that offering, the version and the days used. You can also filter by team, user, or product. So before I move on to the next slide, I want to give kind of a quick example of how one of our clients was able to benefit from using Premium. Our client had an urgent need to purchase 100 AutoCAD licenses due to the field team using an application for accessing and sharing data that's no longer compatible with another design tool. So they knew that they needed to purchase AutoCAD and they needed to purchase it right away. When we looked at their user base, it turned out that they had licenses not assigned and users who were only accessing product one time per month. And with Premium, we were able to quickly provide the business intelligence to determine which licenses could be reallocated from an occasional user. And in the end, our client was able to maximize their current portfolio of software tools and save $600,000 by only purchasing a single AutoCAD, and their Premium investment was $29,000 per year. So that was a huge ROI and a significant savings for this customer. Now, here's another example of a BI report provided by IMAGINiT. What we're seeing is a team, and instead of the organization, now we're drilling down a little bit. We're seeing a team, and the candles are a stack rank by power user and infrequent user. The candles represent the products that are being used by a particular user and the number of days in which they are using those products. I have another client example of how they were able to reduce their overall spend. With Premium, they were able to gain insights into who was using older versions to reinforce adoption of the latest software release and updated workflows. They had a huge investment prior, getting all of their organization changed, updating their standards, and improving their workflows. So with Premium, they were able to validate this information and pinpoint those users that were not transitioning to the new release. And even though the customer did not anticipate purchasing Premium on top of their renewal, they still had a significant savings over what they had budgeted, since their budget was based on their renewal plus expected licensing purchases due to the expansion in personnel versus looking at usage trends. So when they looked at usage trends, they were able to reduce their budget, and they did not have the need to purchase additional licenses. Now here's my final example. What you are seeing here are details for a particular user. This user was assigned both an AEC collection, which remember that's a collection is a portfolio of products, and they're assigned a product design and manufacturing collection, which is an expensive user. Collections is a suite of products, like I said, that carries the highest product cost, and this user has only accessed 2 products in those collections, 5 days or less over a 90-day period. This is a perfect example of a user that should either be assigned to a single product or token flex, which is a cost-effective solution for occasional users. I'll give an overview of token flex on our next slide. But before I do that, I'm going to give one last customer story here. We have a customer that benefited from Premium and Autodesk Flex tokens. By having IMAGINiT manage their licenses, they were able to free up resources to focus on other areas of their business. And their ROI came shortly after their purchase, when they were able to reallocate licenses, and their occasional users were transitioned to tokens at a lower price. They said that they were receiving on average at least 1 monthly request for new licenses. And now they send those requests over to IMAGINiT to identify licenses that are not in use, or users who haven't accessed product in over 30 days, to either shuffle the licenses or grant access to their token pool. The CEO has said he has no problem signing off on future purchases because now he knows what he is paying for is being utilized, and he is getting the most out of his Autodesk investment. Now, I mentioned Flex a few times as a part of the overall strategy customers use for their infrequent users, and it was a more cost-effective solution. So let's talk about what that is. So Flex is a pay-as-you-go program. With Flex, you can optimize costs by only paying for what you use. Flex is intended for that, like I said, occasional user or infrequent user that only needs access 7 days or less per month. Now, 7 days is that sweet spot. If you start getting over 7 days, or you have a user that's using multiple products, then they should stay on subscription. But if you've got a group of users that are using a product less than 7 days per month, they are a candidate. And with Flex, you also, let me talk about another benefit here. As Flex, you can try out specialized tools for different stages in the design cycle, without the upfront cost of an annual subscription. Another good use case is if you have interns that are coming into your organization. This is a great way at a inexpensive cost to get them access to those tools without having to purchase a named subscription. Now here's an example of token estimates compared to new Autodesk subscription or renewal purchase. I'm not going to go into all of these, but I'm going to step you through one. When you access a product, you are consuming the daily token amount for a 24-hour period. Tokens also has what they call an idle function. So if you access license, let's say on a Friday, you never exit out. You will not be charged for the software access for Saturday and Sunday. The software will idle and exit out. Let's say you have a scenario where you have a user who has subscription, but you want to grant them access to tokens for products that are used occasionally. It's not transparent to the user. They don't know if they're using a subscription or if they're using tokens. It looks the same to them. However, when a user logs in and goes to access a product, it first checks to see, does this user have a subscription for that product? If they do, we're going to use subscription. If they don't, then we're going to roll over to the tokens, and then we're going to consume the amount of tokens for that period of time. Also, it's important to know that tokens do have an expiration. Tokens expire after 12 months. So you want to make sure that you know your usage trends to ensure you do not overbuy and then underconsume. Now, I know at first this may seem very complex since each of the products uses a different amount of tokens for consumption and their prices vary. This is where we come in to help you determine what solution would be right for you and for which particular users that is as well. And since we shifted the presentation to talking about tokens, I thought I would just give you another kind of BI report example of token consumptions. So with the BI report here, you can see that you can easily have a graphic view of by user what products are in use, the total number of days, and the total tokens that are being consumed by that particular user. Now, why something like this is important? Because you want to keep an eye on your token use. You want to make sure that you don't have someone that is starting to consume more tokens, right? When they start to consume more than 7 days usage per month, that's when we should look to transition them to a subscription license, and again, evaluate that subscription pool to see if we should transition some of those other licenses over to tokens. Now, you can buy tokens, right, for both the standard plan and a premium plan, but there are differences between standard and premium. So with standard, you can see how much tokens were consumed by month and what products were being used, but you do not have access to the user details. And with premium, you can see user details on products used over what days, months, or for whatever period you want to query. So let's recap. Each one of those customer scenarios that I talked about was carefully thought through and included a variety of solutions, including premium and token flex. I know we kept this presentation at a high level, and we know it may seem very complex, it may seem very scary, it may seem very different, but customers are taking advantage of this and maximizing their overall investment to reduce their spend over time. And this is where IMAGINiT can help you kind of understand what you have and if there's a potential to maximize your investment by reallocating licenses and taking advantage of what premium and flex can do for you. So that concludes my portion of the presentation, but I will stay around to answer questions at the end of the presentation for any you might have. With that, Alan, I will turn it back over to you.
Cool, thanks, Kim. So I know this seemed like a short conversation and a short presentation, but there's a lot of stuff in here, and we want to make sure there's a couple things that you took away from it. And again, we'll answer questions after. But first, understand your rights, and I mean that from two things. One, most organizations are going to assume they're using the license correctly because they've been doing the same model for the last 20 years. I have a user, I give them a license, not necessarily thinking about what they might be using it for, or is it the right size for the organization. Also understanding rights, meaning understanding the user license agreement. Again, we're going to put a couple things in I think in the PowerPoint, and we're going to send out an email, is the assigned countries and also that user license agreement, so you guys will have an understanding of what's in there. Because like I said, even we do it all the time, and there's still things we even sometimes get surprised about. Secondly, as you heard Kim talk about, in a lot of cases, most organizations, when they get a new body, they go buy a new license. With a lot of the different tools that are out there now, start thinking about, do I have the right solution for the right person at the right time? And what type of user are they? And do I have the right data to make sure I'm giving them the right stuff? Third, understand all the contracts and types of ways you guys have the application. So in a lot of cases, we find if you got renewals coming up, they're typically your most cost-effective ones to keep. But in a lot of cases, if you need to buy expensive license, understanding, all right, should I be looking at Flex? Should I be looking at Premium? Should I be looking at buying a new seat or just keeping things the way they are? But it's really surprising me in a lot of organizations we go into that there's thousands of contracts out there because they either had to because of the global rights issues, transferring of licenses, or just not knowing because somebody asked for a license. And the last part is, if you are an IMAGINiT client, Kim showed you a lot of things you can be doing. So again, whoever you are, you guys have access to this data, this information, the people that can help you. We live and breathe this every single day. So let us help you get where you need to be with that technology and help you get the most out of it. Because again, you saw in a lot of Kim examples, even my examples, there's three different scenarios. Either you're great, you might be, there might be concerns about a license compliance audit, which could cost you money, or you might be investing in the technology in a manner that's probably going to cost you more than what it should. So with that, we're going to go to the next step of Q&A and answer any kind of questions.